Sairam students. Yes, we're meeting after a long time. A warm welcome to all of you for today's literature class. Today we're going to begin with a new lesson from your textbook, Footprints Without Feet. And the name of the lesson is The Thief's Story, which is written by Ruskin Bond. Now students, Ruskin Bond is not a new name to us. I think from grade 6 onwards, you're having one lesson in your English textbook which is written by Ruskin Bond. So let us know something more about Ruskin Bond before we actually begin with the lesson. Ruskin Bond, he was born on May 19th, 1934. He is an Indian author of British descent. He lives with his adopted family in Missouri, and the Indian Council for Child Education has recognized his role in the growth of children's literature in India. He was awarded the Sahitya Akademi Award in 1992 for Our Trees Still Grow in Dehra, his novel in English. He was awarded the Padma Shri in 1999 and the Padma Bhushan in 2014. And the latest award that he has received is the Lifetime Achievement Award in the year 2017. So this is all about Ruskin Bond. So students, just keep a book and a pen handy. I'll be giving the meanings of the hard words that we come across in today's class. Kindly jot them down. So let's get started with our new lesson. Here I have an image, a picture of Ruskin Bond. Now before I begin students, let me just brief you with what this story is all about. It's a story about a 15-year-old thief who changes his name every month just because he wants to escape from the police and the employers where he has worked initially, for whom he has worked initially. This time he kept his name Hari Singh. The other person in the story is a 25-year-old writer named Anil. So we have two characters in this story. One is the thief, who is the writer himself, and the other is Anil. Anil is also a writer. The story unfolds on how the thief betrays Anil by committing a theft but retracts later on. So I will not tell you what has happened towards the end. That we will see in the concluding part of this lesson. But yes, this writer, he befriends Anil. Something happens. What happens? Let us see in this lesson. The thief's story. I was still a thief when I met Anil, and though only 15, I was an experienced and fairly successful hand. Anil was watching a wrestling match when I approached him. He was about 25, a tall, lean fellow, and he looked easygoing, kind, and simple enough for my purpose. I hadn't had much luck of late and thought I might be able to get into the young man's confidence. Now, I is a writer himself over here. Okay? So, he says that he was still a thief when he met Anil. Don't confuse yourself, students. Basically, the story is written by Ruskin Bond, but this is the story of a thief. The thief is narrating his story. Okay, So he says that he was only 15 years old when he met this guy Anil. And he says that he was an experienced and fairly successful hand. Now what does experienced and fairly successful hand mean? Like I told you before also, he's a thief, which means he was an experienced fellow and he was smart enough to carry on all his activities. So when he met Anil, or when he saw Anil for the first time, what was Anil doing? He was watching a wrestling match. And that is the time when the thief, he approached him. What was Anil's age? He was approximately, say, 25 years old, a tall, lean fellow. Lean means thin. Don't forget to jot down the meanings of the hard words. So he was a tall, thin fellow and he looked easygoing. Easygoing means he thought that he could easily fool Anil as well. Kind and simple enough for my purpose. What was his purpose? So his purpose was to rob Anil and take away whatever he had, which he had been doing all this while. I hadn't had much luck of late and thought I might be able to get into the young man's confidence. So he was not lucky. For the past few attempts, he was not lucky. So he thought maybe this young man, it will be very easy to gain his confidence. You look a bit of a wrestler yourself, I said. A little flattery helps in making friends. So do you, he replied, which put me off for a moment, because at that time I was rather thin. Well, I said modestly, I do wrestle a bit. What's your name? Hari Singh, I lied. I took a new name every month. That kept me ahead of police and my former employers. So these two, they didn't know each other initially. So when he approached him, obviously he had to strike a conversation with Anil. So what he said, you look a bit of a wrestler yourself. Now like in the last slide I told you, how was Anil? He was a tall but a lean fellow. So he was just flattering him. He mentions it over here as well. A little flattery helps in making friends. So he was trying to flatter him. So do you, he replied, which put me off for a moment. So what did Anil reply? He said, even you look like a wrestler. This answer of Anil actually put him off. He was hurt. He was sort of hurt at that point of time. Why? Because at that time I was rather thin. So what he told Anil, Anil also said the same thing to the thief. Well, I said modestly, I do wrestle a bit. So he said, yeah, I do wrestle a bit. What's your name? Asked Anil. Hari Singh. So what did he say? What is his name? He said his name was Hari Singh. I lied. Now why did he lie, students? Because he wanted to stay ahead. He wanted to keep away from the police and the former employers. That was his way of dodging the police and the former employers. So wherever he used to go, whomever he used to meet, whoever would be his next target, he would just lie. He would just take a new name every month. I hope, students, the lesson is clear till here. Let's proceed further. After this introduction, Anil talked about the well-oiled wrestlers who were grunting, lifting, and throwing each other about. I didn't have much to say. Anil walked away I followed casually. Hello again, he said. I gave him my most appealing smile. I want to work for you, I said, but I can't pay you. So the introduction part is done. They both have introduced themselves. So after the introduction, Anil, he spoke about the well-oiled wrestlers. Now all of us know, students, why do these wrestlers oil themselves? They give them a good body massage for a good blood circulation, and so that their opponents, the person with whom they wrestle, it's not easy for them to have a grip, grip on them. So that's the reason they oil themselves. So these wrestlers, what were they doing? They were grunting. They were making some sound. Now students, I have not given you the meaning of the hard words. I'm giving you the meaning orally, and I expect all of you to jot them down as and when I am giving you the meaning. So Anil talked about the well-oiled wrestlers who were grunting, lifting and throwing each other about. And this fellow, Hari Singh, he didn't have much to say because he had no idea about wrestling. He was completely new to all these things. So after this talk, Anil just walked away, and Hari Singh, he followed casually. He just followed him behind. Hello again, he said. I gave him my most appealing smile. So again he said hello, and he smiled. Now he had some plans. Somehow he wanted to, befriend him and stay with him so that, he can take away everything and run away. So he continued to follow, and then he smiled and he said hello again. I want to work for you, I said. So now he says, now actually his plan begins. What does he say? I want to work with you. Who is saying this? Hari Singh is saying this to, or he's telling this to Anil. But I can't pay you. What did Anil reply? He said, I can't pay you. Let's see what Hari Singh does after this. I thought that over for a minute, perhaps I had misjudged my man. I asked, can you feed me? Can you cook? I can cook. I lied again. If you can cook, then maybe I can feed you. So as soon as Anil said, I cannot pay you, he just thought for a while. He said, have I misjudged my man? Is he a wrong person? But then what did he ask? He asked, can you feed me? Can you give me something to eat? So Anil asked him, can you cook? And once again, he lied. What did he say? Yes, I can cook. If you can cook, then maybe I can feed you. Okay, fine. If you know how to cook, no problem. I can feed you. But I cannot pay you. It will be difficult for him to pay Hari Singh. He took me to his room over the Jamuna sweet shop and told me I could sleep on the balcony. But the meal I cooked that night must have been terrible because Anil gave it to the stray dog and told me to be off. But I just hung around smiling in my most appealing way, and he couldn't help laughing. So there's a deal. If you can cook, I can feed you, but I cannot pay you. Hari Singh was okay with it. So what Anil did was, he took Hari Singh to his room, which happened to be over the Jamuna sweet shop. And there he said, you can occupy the balcony, you can sleep over there. So as discussed, when he said that he can cook, he was asked to cook that night, but the meal was very, very terrible. Terrible means it was very bad, it was horrible, it was tasteless. So what Anil did? Anil gave it to a stray dog and he asked Hari Singh to be off. To be off means to go away. Because he had understood that this fellow cannot cook. He has lied to me. Okay. But then again, he just hung around. Hung around means he just stayed around over there, smiling in his most appealing way, and he couldn't help laughing. So he wanted to stay there. He wanted to be with Anil for some more time to understand whether the man he had decided upon is the right person or no. So students, in our next class, we will see whether Anil allows him to be with him or he leaves. So here today I'll stop. Whatever hard words are discussed, you will jot them down in your English classwork book. I'll see you in the next class. Till then, students, you will take care of yourselves. Sai Ram and bye-bye.